Minority Leader in the House.
Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues, I rise this morning to pray that I be allowed to take a matter of urgent national importance. I'm coming under Order 8, Rule 5 of the House Rules, and the gamut of this matter is a call on us to protect our environment, protect our people as the People's Parliament, and uphold the sovereignty of our country, Nigeria. The oil companies that operate in the Niger Delta, many of them, are divested. And before this, you are aware.
Minority Leader, we started a motion without seeking for permission for it to be heard today.
I'm laying the background to seek for permission.
Just introduce it by way of the topic, and then we'll consider, in line with our rules, whether it's urgent to be heard today.
Very well. That's exactly what I'm trying to do, to introduce it and convince you that it is urgent and it is important that it be heard.
That is debating, Minority Leader.
Thank you, sir. So I ask that leave be granted for us to take this motion to protect the environmental integrity, community welfare, and regulatory independence of the Niger Delta by halting in divestment of international oil companies, IOCs. I therefore move and pray that you support this matter as a matter of urgent national importance to be heard today.
Take Dr. Austin Asima Chado. I represent Gwe East, Gwe West Federal Constituency of Benue State. Mr. Speaker, sir, I stand to second that motion is urgent enough for us to be heard. So may we hear the motion? I so second.
Need to protect environmental integrity, community welfare, and regulatory independence in the Niger Delta by halting divestments of international oil companies, IOCs, including Shell and TotalEnergies. The House notes that the Nigerian Petroleum Industry Act, PIA, vests the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission with the responsibility to regulate the upstream petroleum sector in line with national interests and global best practices. The House also notes that independent assessments, including those by the United Nations Environment Programme, UNEP, and the Bayelsa State Oil and Environment Commission, have documented the catastrophic environmental and health impacts of oil exploration in the Niger Delta, including contaminated water sources, soil infertility, loss of biodiversity, and public health emergencies. The House is aware that recently the Nigerian Upstream Regulatory Commission has rejected Shell's divestment application, citing failure to address environmental liabilities and concerns about the capacity of the Renaissance Consortium to manage the assets effectively. The House is also aware that past divestment by IOCs, such as Shell's sale of assets to Nembe to Aleto, ExxonMobil's transfer and ENI Ajib's sale to Oando have left communities with unresolved pollution, worsened environmental degradation, and increased social unrest. The House further notes that the Nigerian government has a duty to protect the rights and welfare of its citizens, particularly those in the Niger Delta who have borne the brunt of environmental and social harm from oil extraction. The House is concerned that approving Shell and TotalEnergies divestment request without addressing these historical and ongoing liabilities risks undermining Nigeria's regulatory independence, transferring corporate responsibilities to the Nigerian state, and signaling impunity for environmental crimes. The House is also concerned that allowing IOCs to divest without accountability will jeopardize the future of the Niger Delta, undermine Nigerian sovereignty, and burden the Nigerian people with the economic and environmental cost of cleanup. The House believes that a comprehensive and transparent review process, including full disclosure of environmental liabilities and enforceable commitments for cleanup and reparations, must precede any approval of IOC divestments. The House is worried that if regulatory independence is not safeguarded to uphold the rule of law and protect national interest against undue corporate and political interference, the sovereignty of the country will be threatened and citizens' trust in the government would further diminish. Consequently, the House is called upon to resolve to urge the federal government to immediately halt all divestment processes by Shell, TotalEnergies, and other IOCs until their historical, environmental, and social liabilities are addressed, and ensure that no divestment proceeds without transparent consultations with the Niger Delta communities and state governments. Mandate the Upstream Commission to enforce compliance with the PIA and reject divestment applications that fail to meet the highest standards of corporate accountability and conduct detailed assessment of new operators' financial, technical, and environmental capacities before granting approval. Call on the establishment of an environmental restoration fund financed by the IOCs to comprehensively address the UNEP and Bayelsa State Commission's estimate of 100 billion in damages across the Niger Delta and introduce community profit sharing mechanisms to ensure that host communities benefit directly from oil and gas revenues. And finally, direct the House committees on host communities, environment, petroleum resources upstream, and legislative compliance to ensure compliance with the resolutions of the House and report back to the House within 4 weeks for further legislative action. I so move.
Put the question. Those in support of this motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. This motion refers to Committee on Host Community, Committee on Environment, Committee on Petroleum Resources Upstream, and Committee on Legislative Compliance.